Welcome to the Refine and Shine, the podcast dedicated to mastering the art of continuous improvement and optimizing every aspect of your life. I'm Angelina Rivera, your host, and together we'll uncover the secrets to refining our lives, our habits, and our processes to unlock our inner brilliance. Join us on Refine and Shine, where we'll delve deep into achieving more in life without the burnout and without all the stress. This podcast is your platform for a more fulfilling life through continuous improvement and personal growth. In each episode, I and a diverse array of guests discuss practical strategies for up-leveling every aspect of your life. From developing good habits and organizing your space to refining your mindset and personal goals, we're going to explore it all. Our guests share personal stories about the systems they've developed or systems they've used and the tweaks they've made in their lives when refinement was needed, allowing them to truly shine. Listen to Refine and Shine to learn how you can implement continuous improvement techniques in your daily routine, develop and maintain healthy habits that lead to success and satisfaction, organize your life to reduce the stress and increase your productivity, foster a growth mindset that propels you to new heights. My mission is to inspire you to take bold action, make positive changes, and become the best version of yourself. Whether you're aiming to elevate your career, nurture meaningful relationships, or enhance your overall well-being, Refine and Shine is your guiding light. With over 25 years of experience in continuous improvement, I help businesses streamline their processes, establish efficient work areas, and implement standard work protocols. I have trained over 600 individuals and teams in process improvement, optimizing workflows, and enhancing overall operational efficiency. Tune in every week as we embark on an enlightening journey, exploring paths to refinement and illuminating the way to shine in every area of our lives. Subscribe now and join us on this journey to polish your life and let your best self shine through. Thank you for joining us on Refine and Shine. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Refine and Shine podcast. I'm so excited for my guest today. We've been having this really awesome conversation, and I can't wait for you guys to get to know him and hear all the things he's all about. My guest today is Dr. Joshua Awesome, also known as Awesome Coach. He is a coaching psychologist, a human flourishing and mental health specialist. He's an author and a social impact entrepreneur with a global footprint. With over 25 years of experience, Dr. Awesome has worked across Africa and internationally, supporting leaders, organizations, healthcare professionals, and change makers to build resilience, emotional intelligence, and sustainable high performance. He is the author of Mind Your Mind, a powerful work on mental mastery and international living, and Accidentally Disabled, the Journey to Thriving Against All Odds, a deeply human exploration of resilience, trauma, and post-adversity growth. He's also the founder of the Monday Morning Motivation and Secret to Winning, co-authored with Brian Tracy, which is a New York Times bestseller. Dr. Awesome is the founder of the African Institute of Mind and AfriCalm, initiatives focused on culturally relevant mental health innovation, leadership development, and human flourishing across the African continent and beyond. His work sits at the intersection of psychology, leadership, well-being, and purpose. And today he joins us to share the insights on the mind, intentional presence, and what it truly means to thrive in complex times. So thank you, Dr. Awesome, for being my guest here today.
It's a great day, Angelina. I'm humbled and grateful to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I just love that what you just said. It is a great day to be alive. And we kind of talked a little bit about it before we started recording, but kind of walk us through like all the things that you went to get to who you are today. Like, where did this coaching start with, and your whole mindset and how your perspective is on life?
So one of the big inspirations for me is my late mentor, Dr. Myles Munroe. And the backstory to how he became my mentor is quite interesting. I had the opportunity to do work for a bank executive And this bank executive, interestingly, wanted to pay me for the work that I did for her. And I kind of refused to receive the payment because at the back of my mind, it was like a social impact work. So I wasn't looking forward to making money from that opportunity. However, she indicated that since, it's Christmas time, how about she gets me a Christmas gift? And I specifically back then requested for a wristwatch that I kind of liked, and I'm not going to mention the name so they don't get free advertising, on your podcast. But the interesting thing is that she felt that that wristwatch was a gift, but the value of it was not the value of what she had in mind. She had something bigger. And so she indicated, is there anything else I'd like to have? And then I indicated that I'd like to have some cassette tapes. I mean, back then it was cassette tapes we were using. And so she got the form, the brochure for my late mentor's organization, and she placed an order of everything in the catalog. And even after she bought everything in the catalog, based on the budget she had, to buy what she wanted to give to me, she still had some, US dollars left. So she decided, you know what? I've got everything that you want. I'm going to send off, what's left to Myles Munroe's ministry as a gift, from me. And that's how Dr. Myles Munroe wrote me a letter to show appreciation that aside buying the cassettes I bought, I also sent in a gift. Fast forward to that experience a couple of years later, when Dr. Myles Munroe was coming into Africa, we eventually connected, and that's how he became my mentor. And I had the opportunity to really travel with him a bit on the African continent, to be able to co-facilitate at a few leadership conferences. Eventually had the opportunity to go with him to also facilitate some high-level government leadership retreats. And that pretty much shaped the coach, the leadership consultant, the human flourishing specialist that I have become today. And I'm really grateful for that foundation. And also looking at how I also realized that I was going to become a coach is quite interesting, because when I started out, I really believed that I was a motivational speaker. And it was from that whole engagement that I also found out what my life mission was. And that life mission is still my life mission and will remain my life mission, which is to inspire people, to inform them, and hopefully get them involved in life and living. Talking about that whole journey, I would never forget how I was engaged by a tech company, that's in the tech space, and they've been around for a very long time. And they actually engaged me to onboard about 25 young persons from across the African continent. And I remember specifically when I had the opportunity to do that work for this tech brand, which is like the backbone of a lot of technology brands in the world today. I mean, they have over 35,000, IP and inventions that is, named behind them. And I remember one of the things they wanted to do was to really rally and bring young Africans from across the African continent to be, supported and coached and mentored. And I was privileged to be the learning and development specialist from a coaching, mentoring, and leadership perspective on that engagement. That whole engagement was what led to the turnaround and finding and fascinating and kind of, fanning to flame the awesome coach that everybody is really enjoying and getting to see value emerge from today. And how did this happen? Amongst those 25 young persons was one young man who I would never forget showed up at the onboarding session and was looking all scruffy. And so we redesigned and, refocused the whole training program and began with an activity. That activity then led to a reset in the room, changed the energy. Following day, this young man came late. And I asked him, why are you late? And he says to me, I want to ask you why I'm late. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? He says to me, you know what? The truth is, during tea break, I'd like to talk with you. And during tea break, he says to me, what you might not know is that the last 5+ years throughout my university days, I have never had a full night's sleep. But last night, I slept throughout the night and I overslept. And that's why I came late. So I want to ask you, what did you do to us yesterday that really made me, really come to the point where I overslept? And that's how I began to do some research about the activity we had. And that activity helped me learn that, you see, when a person's inner self is really stressed, it impacts on their circadian rhythm. Their circadian rhythm gets reset and disrupted to the point where their sleep is impacted. Once their sleep is impacted, it lowers their energy level and really shifts a whole lot of things about them. And that's how I went to study stress management. And from studying stress management, I then went to further develop myself in the area of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. And from studying cognitive behavioral therapy and mindfulness-based stress reduction, that's how Awesome Coach emerged. And that's how my path into mental health has become the thing even before mental health became a thing. And I'm speaking 15+ years ago. And I've never turned back ever since. So that's the backstory behind Awesome Coach, behind my life mission, behind It's a Great Day, because for me, great means get really excited about today. Angelina.
Is your business constantly busy, but still inefficient? If your team is working hard but things keep falling through the cracks, it's not a people problem, it's a process problem. This is where Refine Consulting comes in. I help businesses simplify operations and build systems that actually work. Here's how I do it, in just a few days. First, we get clarity. We identify where your time, energy, and money are being wasted. Then, we map your process, step by step, so you can actually see what's happening. Next, we simplify. We cut out delays, redundancies, and anything that's slowing you down. Then we build a system your team can follow, so everything doesn't depend on you. And finally, we implement, so you walk away with a clear plan and real results. No more guessing, no more chaos, just better systems. If you're ready to streamline your business and get your time back, go to refineconsultingllc.com and book your free discovery call. Let's refine your processes and help you shine.
I love that. I love that. And I love that you said, like, the mental health about 15 years ago, it wasn't really, people didn't really understand it and you didn't really hear about it. And, I shared with you prior to us recording that I've had loved ones that have been diagnosed with some mental health, and a lot of them 15+ years ago. And it was like, how do you deal with it? How are you there for your loved ones? It took a lot of research, a lot of trial and error with medications and learning how to understand where they're coming from, making sure that they get a good night's sleep, and even the way that the moon sometimes affects them, all the things, the seasons change, things like that. So I think it's pretty amazing that you were doing the research and that it's become kind of like a passion for you to help those in the mental health space because it's much needed. And then, of course, after the pandemic happened and things like that, the mental health diagnoses have gone up tremendously. So thank you for that. I really love that how you shared how you started to focus on the mental health and the human, just the flourishing of humans. And I really like your mind mastery when, what and how it just every day it's a great day to be alive. I think that that's amazing. And I was just curious, is for those people who are struggling like mentally, why do you think so many people they're struggling mentally even though they might appear successful on the outside?
Right. And it's quite interesting you mentioned that. So, African Institute of the Mind has recently gotten to run a couple of new research work. And we have this interesting face scan that literally just scans your face and uses your breath and your cells to be able to come up with about 7 to 12 biomarkers, from your heart rate variability, to your blood oxygen level, and intentionally so because we all have. I used to say this for a very long time before we came up with this, new breakthrough. By the way, it's FDA approved, it's HIPAA compliant, it's ISO compliant, and we're very grateful for it. But before we got to this point, and it's taken about 7 years to be able to get this, solution to the market. And the reason why I talk about it is because of the question you asked. Every one of us has a face and we have a brain, but nobody knows what's happening inside the brain. All right. And I always say that if we want to have a beautiful and a better world, it starts by helping people who have better brains. And for that to really emerge, we need to also help people become more aware of where they are. And I typically don't call it a mental health assessment. I say to them that see it as if you're standing on a scale, okay? And the scale really is trying to help you get aware of what level you are at, on the stress scale. And the goal really is to make them not feel uncomfortable around learning about the state of their mental health. Because you see, because of the way mental health is looked at, there's a lot of stigma around it. So we try to make it more fun and comfortable for people, and even this season where mental health awareness is actually on, one of the things that we're constantly doing is to have, stories, fun ways of getting people to be more aware. And so we try as much as possible to get people to really know how they are feeling, all right? And how they are feeling then brings them to a state and space of awareness. And the question I typically ask my patients, my clients, when I do a keynote, when I facilitate at a group session or a roadshow, I ask this question. I say, what's the weather like within you today? Because we all talk about the weather outside, but the question is, what's the weather like within the person? Because if they're able to use terms, languages, words, it's feeling a bit cold, feeling a bit, it's autumnish, it's winterish, it's springish, it's hazy, and people are able to use words that we're all familiar with. Then it becomes easy for people to really begin to find the right kind of words to language and express how they are feeling. As we all say, it's okay for people who are not feeling okay to say that they are not okay. But sometimes people don't want to say that, because many times when you ask people, how are you? They say, oh, I'm okay. The question is, are you really okay? Yeah. And that's why this assessment is very helpful, because it brings us to a place of awareness. And like I always say to my patients, my friends, that once you and I are on the same page about what you are feeling after the assessment, we can then meet eyeball to eyeball because we're both aware of what you are feeling. And I show up non-judgmentally. And the goal really is to make people feel safe, to feel comfortable, to be able to express how they are feeling. And then we're able to create a psychological safe space to support them and journey. And in some cases, and I remember a patient right now who, was always having a relapse. And the family was wondering how that happened because they'd spent a lot of money, going to a particular care facility that had all the bells and whistles and all the equipment. But when they came to Africans of the Mind, our point of departure was to use the assessment to deepen our awareness. And then we had a CBT session that then brought a lot of clarity around certain behaviors that emerged and helped us to learn how to support that person. Eventually, the treatment protocol that we used included certain things that they had never used. So I'll give you an example. We introduced equine therapy, where the father and the mother were invited to, to the equestria, to the equine space, and each of them was given a horse, intentionally so that we can then learn about how they were mirroring. Because I always say this, that your morning is like a mirror. And the way you spend the first hour or two guides me into a whole lot about how you've been living or how you will live. And so that whole engaging with the horse and horses, father, mother, daughter, helped us to be able to understand a whole lot about their inner self, their life at home, which they could not fake, because even when the horse was resisting, we could tell how they approach each other, when they find themselves in certain spaces. And that gave us like a roadmap to be able to help father, mother understand you are part of the reason why this child is relapsing. And we were able to come to that point where we created, a dyad kind of session that included dad, mom, daughter, and I'm very excited that she's never had a relapse ever since then. And this was a patient that came through during the pandemic. So I share that really to help families and individuals understand that sometimes maybe what you really need is you need those around you to create the right environment.
Yes.
And in creating the right environment, everyone can be well for the collective well-being of not just the one, but for all. As we say in South Africa, Ubuntu, I am because you are. You are because I am.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And that's one of the things that I've had to learn with, people and even within my own household with the mental health struggles is the routine. When the routine changes or, inconsistency or last minute change of plans, they can't process it and it gets overwhelming. And so a routine is a very important. And so I know when the routine shifts, it's hard and it's an adjustment, and and that could be with anybody, even without the mental health, but it's just a little bit harder for others. Routine is important, consistency is important, things like that are really important. So I think when you said the morning routine or the morning, and then how they're behaving with the horse, and if the horse isn't cooperating in the frustration, then that can spike and trigger all of those things. I was just picturing it, maybe one of them was a little bit too aggressive with the horse and started elevating their voice or something like that triggered the daughter. I don't know, but that was just what I pictured in my head as you were telling the story. One of the things I wanted to ask you as well is, you stress about intentional living. You talk about that. We talked about it in your bio. And how important is that, especially with today's fast-paced environment? How is important is it for us to be intentional?
I think it starts again with little action. You see, when I said the morning is the mirror, one of the things that I do daily, I wake up in the morning and before I put my feet on the ground, I affirm myself and I say, something great is going to happen to me today. Now, my feet have not even touched the ground or gotten into my shoes. And then I say something great is going to happen through me. Now, it's like a giving and receiving. Now, while all this is happening, I have not even gone to my iMessage for those who are iPhone lovers, or WhatsApp for those who are, Android and WhatsApp lovers. You see, because intentionally starting with me, and this is what I talked about in my third book, Mind Your Mind, How to Stress Less and Achieve More, that you begin your morning by meeting with yourself. When you meet with yourself, you are showing yourself respect. And that's how the intentional living begins. Because many people want to meet with other people. They want to check their phone. Did I have any missed calls? Did I have any messages? You're really not bringing yourself into respect. And that's also the way to be able to have that first hour of really praying, meditating, depending on how you approach your day, and really not allowing devices to really become a vice, if I can say that.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's so key that we need to realize that these are part of the intentional ways to live. I get up from my bed, I lay my bed. That's the first action of intentionality. Because you see, the brain registers that. It doesn't know the difference between yesterday and tomorrow. So as you continuously do it, what you have done and do and continue to do begins to create pathways, within your brain. And those are very, very important for you. I mean, I've been at this for 25 years. But the interesting thing, I've been waking up at 5 a.m. every day, regardless of what time zone I find myself in. Because based on my work, I get to travel a bit. And even when I have not had a full night's sleep, I still wake up at 5 a.m. And it's because my body has become accustomed to it. So that's part of intentionality. When you begin it and you stick to it, your body gets used to it, your brain gets used to it, and then you're intentionally doing the right thing, because doing the right thing is the right way, and the right way is the right thing, and doing the right thing then becomes the right pathway, and you stay on that right path, and it's just a matter of time. Things will stay right. And I really believe that that's so important for all of us. But it starts with something little. Something little. It doesn't have to be something big. Someone who is saying, I want to, move more. How about you start with 5 minutes of movement? I want to pray more. How about you start with maybe 2 minutes or 10 minutes of prayer? I want to meditate more. How about you start with 5 minutes or 10 minutes? I want to write a book. How about you begin with a page? So that intentionality, it's like taking a step on the staircases. Baby steps then gives you big steps. The big steps then makes it a big leap. And the big leap then makes it a big deal within a matter of time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I always tell people, I teach people on time management, and when people say they don't have time for this or that, and I'm like, well, let me look at your screen time on your phone, because I'm guaranteed you got some time. to do things. But it's the intentionality too. And like one of the things is when you were like, you got to be intentional and be present. And so like I love the part like just waking up and spending that time with yourself first before hurrying up and rushing to grab the phone or rushing to do all these other things, because then you're going to be rushed the whole day when you have that type of rush. And then even when people are like, when you're in the shower and you're thinking about all the other things you have to do, no, like just be present and take your shower, be intentional, right? Because the other stuff is like when you're working, then be present with your work. And it's all these things, it's these little actions that we can do. And I always talk about, all these little actions that we need to celebrate, these everyday little movements or celebrations, because all of it adds up to big things. But if we focus on like, I used to be a run marathons, I wouldn't focus on the finish line. It was just 1 mile. Or sometimes if I was having a hard run, it was like, let me just make it to the next light pole. Let me make it to the next light pole. Like just all of those things, because eventually over time I was going to finish it. It's just intentionally just focusing on the next step, and, being present on that. And I love this, just taking the time for yourself is so important. Everybody always just wants to go and, like you said, who did I miss a call from? Did anybody respond to a message? What's going on social media? All these things. But put time limits on your phone. Have those boundaries. I think boundaries is so important. You don't have to have that device with you 24/7. It's really, really good. What are some habits that you think that people can do that they can help improve their mindset?
And you already started talking about it, putting time limits on, devices, for example. And it's quite interesting that many of us on our calendar, we have time for everyone, but we don't have me time. You schedule time for this, that, him, her, them. But how about me time? And you need to realize that if there is no you, there can be them. So it begins with you. And we all know this. When you're in the plane and they make those announcements, they always say to you, get your own first. Okay. In other words, self-care, self-serve, self-you. You are number one. In other words, you are first in line. And once number one is taken care of, then everyone else will then get taken care of. In other words, you really are not doing anything out of this world by really self-caring. And the need to realize that is so important goes a very long way. Because if you learn how to look after yourself, then it becomes easier to be able to support other people. If you are a good manager of your own emotion, then you can support another person's, because sometimes when, for example, when a kid, is throwing tantrums, and then the adults too is throwing tantrums, I am first and foremost already saying to myself, this adult is telling me that they haven't learned how to regulate their own emotions. Because if a child is triggering you, then you need to be listening to what is happening inside you for you to be triggered, because you're supposed to be the adult. And if you are not being the adult, then it means that there's still a child inside you that really needs to get more care and attention, which simply means that there's still work to be done. And I'm not here to judge anybody, but I'm simply saying, work on yourself. Because as you work on yourself and you make time for you, and you are very, very disciplined about it, a whole lot of things will shift. I'll give you an example. There are certain things I do every day. I must, have a healthy beverage, okay? Whether it's tea in the morning, and I'm a fan of Earl Grey because that's the tea my late mentor, Dr. Myles Munroe, and I used to have while we traveled. And if I'm having a cup of coffee. I want to have an organic one that has an infusion of Ganoderma lucidum, or or maca powder. And the intention really is so that my cellular, my inner self is really getting the care and the nurture that it needs. And as much as I am doing all of that too, I am also journaling. So every day I want to write down three good things that have happened today, and I have this check that pops up on my phone. It's like a reminder, and it says to me, what went well today? And it's like me responding to that question. And it's helping me, because you see, gratitude is the vitamin of the human soul. And sometimes some people are saying, oh no, there's nothing to be grateful for. Oh, dude, you just woke up this morning. Hey man,
Exactly.
you're here. There are people who slept last night, they're no longer here. So there's always something to be grateful for. And excuse me, but somebody once said that when you are not grateful, you are a great fool. Oops.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are, I wanted to take, like I said earlier, I do time management coaching. And the things I always tell my people, the first thing you do is you schedule on your calendar is time for you. You're going to schedule, when are you going to do your workouts? When are you going to do, or just move your body? What are you going to eat? Like, when are you going to take the time to eat? It's always should be, scheduling time for yourself first, then family, then work gets scheduled in. Because what you're teaching to your kids or your children or your family is that you're putting yourself last, or you're putting work before them, like all these things. But like you said, like the oxygen mask, they always tell you, put your oxygen mask on first. And if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of others. So that is really important. And it's not selfish if you're taking the self-care. And, so that's really important. And you shouldn't have any regrets about it. The more that you're able to work out, the more that you're able to move your body is going to prolong your life in the long run. And so that's, actually the good thing. And that's a good role model for your family. And then the thing is, I talk about it. I've done a couple of episodes about this, but I use it as my SHINE principles. It's SHINE, which is, my podcast, Refine and Shine. But to me, SHINE means, the S is show up every day. Show up. No matter what you do, show up for yourself, show up for your family, just show up. The H is have good habits. The I is be intentional. Be intentionally present wherever you're at. The N is never give up, because there's going to be hard days, right? But there's going to be desires and goals and dreams that we have on our hearts. And then the E is every day celebrate those wins. Every day. Because as we celebrate and we're grateful for even the small things, we talked a little bit about mental health a few times throughout this episode. Sometimes for those, sometimes getting out of bed is a reason to celebrate. You got out of bed, you made your bed, you may lay back down on it, but you did do that. And so you had some movement. And so that is something to celebrate. We always just look at these big goals and saying like, oh, I'm going to be successful when I get this, or I'm successful for this or that. But every day is a gift, and we need to celebrate that. Every day that we have that we're able to buy food, provide for our families, do all these things, those are things to celebrate. And you got to be just grateful for that. I'm grateful that we're able to record this podcast, because we had a little bit of difficulty earlier, right? You're in Africa.
Yeah.
I'm in California. We are in totally like 12 hours apart from each other, or whatever it is. And we're able to do this. That's going to be a win, like something I'm grateful for today. So I love that. There's so many things that we need to think about. And when it comes to the mental health and just the outlook we have in life, what you said earlier, just every day is a great day. Every day that we're able to move our bodies, every day that we're able to have time with ourselves, to appreciate the gifts that God gave us, the fact that we woke up, all of those things is just something that we need to celebrate. And I think that so many people look to those devices to look at social media and all these other things and say, oh, well, they have this and they have that. Just be thankful for what God gave you. And if you want something, you want whatever your desires are, then you just need to work for it, and just don't stop comparing yourself, because comparison is the thief of joy. I think is so important.
Indeed.
Can I ask you a little bit about, you talk about resilience in one of your books, and you shared with me earlier before we started recording, is that you had a spinal injury. Can you just talk to us a little bit about that and how, I mean, when you look at you today, you're excited, you're grateful, you have such just this great personality, but it's not, life has not been easy, right? You had a spinal cord injury. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes. So about 4 or 5 years ago, thereabout, I think 3 or 4 years ago, I had a spinal cord injury, and it literally changed a lot of things. And I would never forget when the accident happened. I landed on my back, and it also locked my voice box, so I couldn't call for help.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thought that was coming to my mind is, I cannot move, I cannot scream. Am I going to keep resisting or release myself and come to that place of acceptance? The moment I stopped the resisting, my nervous system began to come to a calmer state. And it helped me realize that, wait, even though I've fallen, I'm still on the ground. And the earth is supporting me. I mean, I'm and it helped me realize that at one point or the other, all humans get to fall. We fall differently, we fall in different locations, but we all fall. Now, the interesting side of that story that I didn't tell you is that the person who eventually picked me up had also had a spinal cord injury.
Oh, wow.
So, in other words, God has a very great sense of humor where He has the data. He knows who He needs to position at the place on your path, and you simply need to pause and resist the urge to continue resisting. So until I released myself from resisting and recognized that the earth was holding me, the whole nervous system was not going to, continue. I was just going to continue, and I wasn't going to notice the opportunities, the support that was around me, even though my voice box was locked. And eventually it taught me a very vital lesson that wherever you fall, whatever the fall feels like, you will get hurled by the earth created by God. In other words, the support will always be available. It might not come the way you think it will come, but it eventually comes through. And that's a portion of my book, that is very, very profound. Chapter 7 of Accidentally Disabled is titled The Reset Button. It is so special for me that, I remember the moment and how it happened and how I was so fearful, thinking, will I ever walk again? I'm back on my feet. Yes, things were lost. Yes, the accident cost me a lot. But the reality also is that it was kind of a cleansing of sorts, by the Creator, not by any form of ritual. But that whole incident of really falling took away the fear factor of, will I ever walk again? Because I'm back on my feet. And I always want to use that to really help elevate people. And that, by the way, that book was released at our annual mental health conference here in Africa, which is co-located with what we call the Africa Healthcare Indaba. 15,000 people attended that conference last year from 60 countries. And that book became a psychological safe space support tool that we created, what is now called the Thrive model. Tools for healing, recovery, invigoration, vitality, and empowerment. And it's humbling that a pain can create a path and lead to a purpose and also bring forth products, but sometimes we resist some of these things. So enough of resisting, let's release ourselves, and sooner than later we would rise again.
I love that. I think that's so important. And is this once you just, we all have these things, right? These things that can happen to us. We can't control everything. And if we just, stop resisting and just let God do the work that He's, has on His path for His purpose, we will be on track. And like there's lots of things that can happen to us. There's negative things, all these things. And stop fighting it and just like, hey, God, what do you want me to use with this? What is this pain how do you want me to use this to help others, to treat others? Here you are, you wrote a book for it, you're helping others, you released it at a mental health conference that, would you say 15,000 people attended?
Correct.
Amazing. And so it's like, you wouldn't have been able to do that had you not been, had this fall and all of these other things come to place. And that's one of the things, like we always have this fear we're not going to do this. We're fearful of all these things. And we just got to like take the chances on things and just let God direct our path. And if we fail, or fall or whatever it is, maybe it's not an accident, but there's things that can happen to us. If we may not get the bid, we may make mistakes, all of these things, but God is going to keep putting us on the right path, and we can use those lessons to make, for His purpose, and it'll make an impact on people. So I think that that's amazing. I thank you for sharing that. You've wrote so many amazing books, and you have all the, these great things that you're doing. And I just wanted to ask you, how can people get connected with you if they want to reach out, they want to talk to you, are your books all available on Amazon, or where can we find them?
So we have one or two of them that are available. The one I co-authored with Brian Tracy, for example, is available across the US. People can find it. But the other ones are specifically, so full disclosure, all the books are sold out. So we're going back, we're going back into print. So I'm very excited about it because, you just write these things you really don't know. So we're going back into print, and then they're also going to be available on Amazon within the next couple of weeks. But aside that, I am accessible and available via direct email. People can email me. It's joshua@africainmind.org. You want to find me on LinkedIn, you will easily find me there. It's Dr. Joshua Awesome. You will find me there. If you're trying to reach me on Instagram, it's @theawesomecoach. On TikTok, it's Dr. Awesome _. So that's how to reach me. And it will be an honor and a pleasure to hear from anyone who really truly thinks that I could be of value to them, to their community, to their group. But I'm really passionate about really helping humans to flourish. But I also bring it from an Afrocentric, theme, values, ethos, evidence-based approach that I'm really grateful and thankful to be able to bring to the world.
I think that's so important. And I will definitely have all your links in the show notes as well. So listeners, if you're listening to this and you didn't catch all his links, just make sure that you check out the show notes, send him an email, connect with him on whatever platform that you use, but he has made himself available to you. He has such great wealth and knowledge, and he is here on this earth to share his mission, which is God's mission. And so please connect with him. But as we wrap up, the question that I always ask all of my guests is, what is one thing that my listeners can do today in order to help them refine and shine?
One thing that everyone can do today that will help them to shine, correct?
Yeah.
I think that one thing really is to just sit with yourself and ask yourself, if I had all the money in the world and nothing was standing in my way, what will I be doing right now? And once that thought sits within your consciousness, ink it and take action in the direction of what you've inked.
So good. So good. Yes. Yes. I like that. I'm definitely going to start doing that tonight for myself, and start writing out my action plans and what steps I need to take to get the things that that will come to me when I think about that. So thank you so much for that.
And they should be written in action, as if you're taking action.
Mm-hmm.
I am.
Yep.
Not I will. I am. Because you see, if you write it as an action word, then you see yourself doing it. I am having an interview with Angelina, and that's how it is. I am flying around the world. I am writing a book. I am releasing a book before the end of this year. I am going to have 100,000 listeners on this podcast. I am.
Exactly. Yes. What I've been writing is gonna have, was it 340,000 downloads by the end of 2026.
There we go.
Yep. And I am going to be writing a book by the end of 2026. Not only write the book, but publish the book.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you can write it, but if you don't do anything with it, then what's the point, right? Write and publish. Yeah. So thank you so much. Well, thank you so much. I definitely appreciate you, and I definitely appreciate you staying up past midnight so that we can record this podcast. I appreciate it.
It is an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Refine and Shine. We hope you find valuable insights and inspiration to fuel your journey of continuous improvement. Remember, the key to success lies in refining your processes and letting your inner brilliance shine. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your feedback is greatly appreciated and helps us reach more listeners like you who are eager to refine and shine in all areas of life. Stay connected with us on social media for updates and additional resources and behind-the-scenes content. We love hearing from our listeners, so feel free to reach out with any suggestions, questions, or success stories you'd like to share. As we wrap up, remember that the power to transform your life lies within you. Keep striving for growth, embracing change, and seeking opportunities to refine your skills. Together, let's continue to shine bright and make a positive impact in the world. Until next time, keep refining and keep shining.